All right, guys, welcome to another video. This is gonna be a little bit different because I'm gonna go through and watch Greg Doucette, the man. Okay, if you don't know, I just recently became a Greg Doucette fan. So I just found a new video that he just made like 1 day ago, and we're gonna watch it together. I just watched like the first 2 minutes. Crazy funny. So he's reviewing. Well, he's talking about this other guy, Mike Israetel, another popular YouTuber. So let's see what he got to say about this time. And it says it just got worse. Mike Israetel giving psychopath vibes. So he did a critique on Mike Israetel before, a video about him, or I think a few videos that about him because he's on steroids now. At the ripe age of 40. So let's see how this video is gonna go, and I'm gonna react to it live. It's just the first 2 minutes that I've watched. The rest of it I haven't seen it, but let's see how it's gonna be. It's really funny. So I got my snacks, ready to watch this.
Greg Doucettes, who is a two-faced, lying sociopath sucker. If I see him in real life, I might take something from him. Medical science can't give him back.
And how dare you try to cross me?
I'm a little bit scared of you because you're not faceless.
It's the smile after too, like the little squirm. Oh, psychopath vibes.
Wow.
Coach Greg, in today's video, Mike Israetel is on Diary of a CEO. And in this interview, Mike really opens up. And I'm telling you, if you haven't watched this, it is absolutely a must. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Imagine the things that Mike is thinking about if this is what he admits to. And so we're going to focus on the dangers of abusing performance-enhancing drugs. What Mike revealed. So let's get right into it.
And then you would grow like 2.5 times as much muscle.
Sounds exciting, but there's always a downside for these things in life.
There are a few downsides, yes.
And so Mike, with the scary, creepy smile, begins to talk about the downsides. Yes, there are a host of downsides. Never in my wildest dreams did I think he would admit to the severity, the level of mental turmoil that he's going through from taking steroids.
So there's cosmetic downsides. You get an increase in body hair growth. I have hair that
You guys notice this creepy voice though. Man. This is hilarious.
goes on my ears. I have hair that grows on the outside of my nose.
The extra hair growth on his nose, ears, back, and so on, the balding, the gynecomastia, the chance of getting a heart attack, the liver problems, the increased blood pressure of which Mike simply...
Guys, remember all of this, all these problems he's mentioning, just to get bigger muscles. That's all, just to get bigger muscles, to be stronger, to be more fit, to increase your status somehow, I mean, all those downsides. I mean, it's a long list, okay? And all for what? To have a little bit bigger muscles. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Let's see what these guys are doing to themselves,
simply takes a couple of blood pressure medications to mitigate those risks. He says, it's all good. No, it's not.
Increases in anxiety, increases in aggression, increases in disagreeableness and probability of confrontation.
And so you're more argumentative and you're losing your fluid intelligence. You're in fact dumber. And he says, even when you come off, you don't gain all of that back.
Substantially reduce your fluid intelligence. They may, in the long term, reduce your overall intelligence, but it seems that if you stop taking them, you get most, if not all of that back.
And so lucky for Mike, he started smarter than last time. And so although he still lost a lot of intelligence, he still has more than average. But I would argue, if he's so smart and he knows all of these negative side effects and he has analyzed himself, then why does he continue to use steroids? I mean, if he was so smart.
I mean, I think that's a good point. If you're so smart, like, yes, he's I think Mike Israetel is like some kind of official scientist on this stuff. I'm not sure his real title, but he's some kind of scientist when it comes to like bodybuilding or biology or something. So he's supposed to be really smart, and I think he has good information on his YouTube channel, so he is smart. But how smart are you really if you're willing to put yourself through all those risks, and you're noticing the risks as well? So you're book smart, you have knowledge on this stuff, but like, is it really that smart to put yourself through that? To risk a heart attack, risk dying early, just for some bigger muscles in the short run. You know what I'm saying? So he's making a good point. How smart are you really? And yes, did he lose intelligence? He says he's losing intelligence. Probably he is. I mean, he's just ridiculously funny, though.
So analytical, would he not be able to analyze himself and say, hey, it's not worth it? The side effects, what can become of me because of what I'm doing, it's
Right.
simply not worth it.
Which
Right.
ones have you suffered with the most?
The ideas in my head that tell me to do things tell me to do unspeakable things.
Like what?
They're unspeakable.
Come
And
on.
so he realizes that he gets angrier, that he loses intelligence. He can't control his emotions as well. But there are things that are unspeakable that he wants to do that he thinks about. He's asked, can you speak to that? They're unspeakable. Let that sink in a little. He thinks of unspeakable acts,
That's like
ones that he would
you know?
tell no one. They are literally unspeakable. It's the smile after, too, like a little squirm. Oh, psychopath.
Check that smile. This is too funny. Come on, man. This smile is like, check this out. He has a smile of like some kind of guy who would happily, seriously injure someone. Happily do that as well. That's the smile he got on his face. It's crazy. Wow.
Vibes.
The ideas in my head that tell me to do things tell me to do unspeakable things.
Like what?
They're unspeakable.
They're unspeakable.
Creepy.
Yet Mike, he calls Coach Greg a psychopath.
Greg Doucettes, who is a two-faced lying sociopath sucker. Print that.
Perhaps it takes one to know one.
I think he's on steroids while he's saying those things. That sounds like he's overly aggressive. Because if you really watch Greg Doucette, I feel like Greg Doucette is actually a good guy, cares for the community. Warns people about the dangers of steroids. So I think Greg Doucette is actually a good guy. Yes, he comes off pretty aggressive when he's critiquing people, but he's honestly, in my view, he's really okay. He's really good, actually, in my book. Like I said, I'm a fan of Greg Doucette. After really watching his videos, I have to become a fan. He's just raw, honest, and keeping it real with everyone. So for those reasons, I'm a fan of Greg Doucette, honestly.
Now, personally, I haven't thought of any of the things he's going to describe, and I abused steroids for 10 years. But the way he looks into the camera, the way he looks at him, they're unspeakable. I'm scared. It's not Cap. I'm not the one that needs to touch grass. Editor, re-show this. Come watch this.
The ideas in my head that tell me to do things tell me to do unspeakable things.
Like what?
They're unspeakable.
Creep.
Imagine if I turned to you and I said, I want to do unspeakable things to you.
I have chills.
Right.
Being myself is the boldest thing I can do. My own self.
They're unspeakable. I'd have to speak them. You really want to know?
And so he says, well, you asked for it. Do you really want to know? And so he gets us a glimmer. Remember, this is just a 2-hour podcast. He's explaining the tip of the iceberg. When you see an iceberg, there's a large mass below it. 90% of the iceberg you can't even see. To that analogy, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The things, the thoughts that go through his mind.
I'm also fucking weird, so just remember that.
No, we're all a bit weird.
Most people probably don't have this severity, but
And so you have to give credit where credit is due. Mike did not need to share any of these stories on a channel with over 7 million views. He didn't have to admit to any of his psychological problems, the things he's dealing with, the fact that he was bullied when he was a kid and so on. And so please respect the fact that he was brave enough to share his stories in the hopes that this could perhaps curtail some other impressionable teenagers or guys in their 20s, 30s, and so on from using performance-enhancing drugs.
I'll read a comment on social media.
Perhaps from the guy from Bangladesh.
And I begin to fantasize about what it would be like and how much sublime pleasure I would receive in hurting that person at a deep physical and emotional level.
The way he can describe the sublime pleasure he would receive from deeply hurting that person on a physical and emotional level, that guy from Bangladesh, who he's never met, who said, hey, you're bald. You sound like the parrot from Aladdin. Oh, wait, that's me.
Sublime pleasure I would receive.
To hate that person, somebody who's never met, literally just some troll loser, a mosquito from Bangladesh, that he thinks that he fantasizes about hurting that individual. It's not good. All from steroids.
Hurting them in such a way that they're never going to walk right again and they're always going to remember me.
And that's not enough. I want them to never walk again. And for the rest of their life, remember, I did that to them. The guy from Bangladesh. I don't like how you look. I can't imagine this.
If you have 10 times the testosterone-like action affecting your brain, your proclivity to falling into honor culture-like behavioral patterns and thought patterns increases to an enormous extent.
And so Mike says, look, my testosterone levels are perhaps 10 times, we've heard him say in the past, 25 times as high as a normal man. And so with honor culture, there's a feeling that you can't cross me. There's a line in the sand. And if you cross that line, for example, stepping on my shoes, bumping into me, saying something to me, it's not good. I will do anything to maintain my honor. I am better than you. I am the top alpha on the hierarchy of men, and you're below me. And how dare you try to cross me? And so I will do anything. If you step on my shoe, I'll go to jail for 20 years over that. You've offended my honor as a man. And so when you're on steroids and you have more testosterone than last time, that gets amplified to a massive degree. I'm alpha and you're beta, and don't you dare try and cross me. I don't care if it's a...
I think all men have this feeling, you know, inside of us. We have this sort of hierarchy, competition, honor, respect type of how can I say, dynamic between each other. And I think for sure that this thing will, if testosterone is the way that everyone is saying it is, then I'm sure that that feeling must increase if you're on steroids, for sure. Exactly what compounds you're using, I don't know which one affects it more, but I can imagine that I can imagine just that feeling being amplified. I can really see it, you know. Even though I've never done steroids, I can just think like, yeah, I can understand that probably must increase if it makes you more manly. That part of manliness of manhood must also sort of naturally increase as well. Those feelings, I can relate, but you know, I'm not saying that I've felt like this bad, but I can relate to it.
Comment on Instagram, or if you run into me in person, heavens forbid if you ever run into me. But how dare you? I'm above you, and you better remember that. And if you don't, I will give you something to remember for the rest of your life.
I feel like that should be the intro. That's scary.
It's
shit.
giving sociopath.
People will think it's you saying that. Oh my God.
I don't want any part of it.
And like, this is the thing. Like, I'll be brushing my teeth in the morning in the shower and like thinking about people in my life that have wronged me. I've never been wronged in a real serious way.
And so you amplify what's going on. Somebody says something to you and you're like, What did you just say? Say that again. I dare you. Bro is just like, what time is it? What did you mean by that? What do you mean, what time is it? It's time for me to get a bat and end you. And so while he's sapillar les dientes, he's brushing his teeth, this is what he thinks about. Me, I think I'm about bike racing or perhaps sexy time later after this. Not Mike.
Yeah.
Let's see what Mike thinks about while brushing his teeth.
And I'll just be like those motherfuckers of uncontrollable fantasies of rage and aggression and righteous anger and revenge.
I mean, if he had it twisted a little bit more, give it a bit more haktua, could have been every male's fantasy. Well, every gay male's fantasy.
Uncontrollable fantasies of rage and aggression and righteous anger and revenge.
Polarbröd, helt enkelt.
Uncontrollable urges for rage, aggression, righteous fantasy. I don't even know all the words he's using. They're big words, but it all bad stuff. It's bad. And so is this perhaps the future collaboration of Mike Israetel and Nico Cowed Avocado?
So I am the villain because I've made myself one.
They're unspeakable.
Villainous enemies of the world. Perhaps we're going to need Batman, Coach Greg, to save the day.
I hate that. Like, as a philosophical minded person, I just want to hug everyone in the world.
And so here's the thing, Mike. If you want to just hug the world and be happy and so on, get off the steroids and get on the M.
True. Good point, Greg.
Am I right or am I right? He wants to just listen to this.
Right now, I'm on not so high levels of steroids. I'm just, man, I make jokes with I'll start conversations with random people in the street, no problem.
He just wants to hug the world. Mike, you're on the wrong drug. And by M, I'm talking about more Turk builder and less steroids. You see, if you don't abuse performance-enhancing drugs, these thoughts that you're having, they're going to be subsided at least a little bit. They can't go up anymore. You've had your fun. You've abused steroids long enough. It's time to retire. We just had a man, the world's largest bodybuilder, 6 foot, 350 pounds, Ilias Goldum. He just died. He's dead. He's not here anymore. We don't want to see anyone succumb to abusing performance-enhancing drugs when you never had to. This is a personal choice. You can stop whenever you want.
Taking steroids. What's the point?
That's a good question.
And so that's the $1 million question from Diary of a CAO. Why are you still doing it? Explain yourself. Let us understand you. It's not a good question. It's the question. That question is him.
Recently, I've taken a probably several year backseat away from competitive bodybuilding.
And notice he said probably, and he said backseat. Doesn't mean he stopped. And as far as I know, he's still on 250 milligrams of test a week. That's certainly far more than he needs. Certainly going to increase the androgen levels in the body. Going to make him feel like he has to be more alpha as opposed to beta on the male hierarchy scale. And so would it not be imperative for him to lower the doses even more and to never, ever look back? I mean, ever.
You see a movie where like the Hulk rips off an airplane wing and throws it. Oh my God, I want to just be the.
And so at that point, he pictures it. He's in that moment. He feels it. He snaps into it yet again, but he feels it. I can feel what he's feeling. He has the sense that I want to be the true alpha, the largest, leanest man in the world. The Incredible Hulk. But remember, the problem with the Incredible Hulk is he couldn't control his anger.
Why?
I want that. It just feels good.
But you know why?
But why, Mike? Aside from that biological need, why do you feel you have to maintain all that size?
In like end of elementary school, all the way through the beginning of high school, I was bullied honestly, like literally a few times, I think I was just the wrong person to bully, because that very temporary state of disenfranchisement and powerlessness, I'm never going to be bullied again.
In an entire life, he remembers being bullied 1 or 2 times. Couple times around grade 5. He's about 10 years of age. And he states, after that point, I would never, and I mean never, ever be bullied again.
I wish I was logical enough that when, like, if I was getting robbed by someone at knife point, or not even knife point, just a guy, try to be like, hey man, get out of my way. No. I said, get out of my way. I'm going to die here before I move out of your way. You're going to treat me with respect, or one of us is either going to jail or the morgue or the hospital.
And so he says, if a guy walks to him at knife point, perhaps with a gun, says, get out of my way. No, I will not be bullied. That's his line in the sand. We talked about that. One of us is either going to jail or going into the morgue or the hospital. But it ends here. You do not bully Mike Israetel.
Remember this? I think we still need this kind of like, I think that manliness, that sort of ability to say no, to put down like a line in the sand, you know, that ability is disappearing from the culture. So I think like that part should be enhanced. I think that needs to be like promoted more, though, that kind of behavior, I think, but not this extreme like the way he's saying here. But you know, I think people should be able to say no a lot more than they're doing now, you know. Hey, we want to give your whole family a shot that could potentially kill you. We got no research on it. Oh yeah, sure, go ahead, do it, you know. I don't think that's not a good stance. It's better for people to say no. Me, my family, you're not gonna mess around here, you know. So I think that side of being a man is lacking. Men are becoming more soft, so it's kind of refreshing somehow to see like this kind of example being brought up, because it's never happening to like normal people nowadays. It's not happening. People are not having that, carrying themselves in that way, normal guys. So you know, that side of manhood, even though it's a bad way for it to happen now with steroids, I think it's that side is still something that is valid, you know, as a man. So it's refreshing to hear someone talk about that.
It's a terrible thing to think. It's stupid beyond belief. Just be like, sir, my apologies. Please keep going.
And so he knows this is stupid. He knows he's being a moron. Somebody pulls up to you with a knife or a gun. You don't just argue with the person. What's the point of this? And so you don't want to end up like Batman's parents. It didn't end well for them.
Unfortunately, too many people can think back to a time when they were bullied in some way, whether it was a
No, of course, you got to be smart too, you know. But still, you know what I'm saying. You don't have to start fights with people who have guns and knives unnecessarily. That's not my point. But you know, to be able to say no, you don't cross me. That is respect still, and it's lacking nowadays. So let's see what he's gonna say.
day, whether it was something that was a bit more prolonged.
Is it strange that I can't look back in my childhood and think, yeah, I was bullied? These people bullied me. This particular moment or scenario, I remember being bullied. I don't have those memories. Am I just very fortunate, or did I put that out of my mind?
I've never been bullied before, so I can't really relate. But I don't think people didn't really want to bully me though, as a kid too. So, but it is what it is. I don't know. I can't really relate to people who got bullied, because it usually means that you're so weak. People see the weakness in you that they just want to attack you. They take advantage of the weakness that's there. So it's something usually, I think, wrong with you, or with how your self-image, or how you grew up, maybe your household, that you're not able to show strength. You're just like such a wimp. People just want to, people just push you over because you're so weak, and it's obvious that you're weak. Basically, that's why people get bullied, in my view.
I have no idea, but I can't relate to what Mike Israetel is saying.
I felt like I was out of control, and a part of my brain that I didn't consent to made me frown and dipped my head down for me.
And so Mike, upon being bullied, he essentially lowered his neck and succumbed to that bully. He was lower on the male hierarchy, but never again. He can't handle this.
It's just the dominance hierarchy sorting itself. And someone confronted me, and I automatically sorted myself beneath them.
He couldn't handle being weaker, less capable, less intelligent, less strong than anyone.
So it was a kid named Darren. We were just wrestling. I wrestled with everyone. He beat me in wrestling, and that was cordial. But he had braces, I think, and he cut himself while wrestling with me, and he was bleeding out of his mouth. And then he got really upset about that. And he like kind of stood over me. And he was like, you know, you little this and that, like, you did this to me, like, I'm going to F you up and all this other stuff. And that's when that mechanism switched. When he did that to me, my whole perspective on the world changed for years.
And so he remembers a time when he was 10 and there was one kid who was more muscular than him, more developed than him, and he was the only kid that could beat him in wrestling. And so upon beating him, he looked down at Mike Israetel, who had been beaten in that match, and said, I'm going to mess you up. The Darren, who had beaten him in this match, was bleeding from the lip. He was very upset about this. And essentially, Mike had to bow down and be below him on the male hierarchy scale. And from that moment on, he never was the same. He lost his confidence. He became introverted. He just wasn't the Mike of old.
He got something like, your shit is racial. That's deep, bro. My shit's not deep at all. It's just two kids, and one of them punked it out.
He's like, my shit's not deep. I'm pretty sure it's pretty deep.
And so he glances over the fact that, hey, it's not deep. Your shit's racial. Mine is just nothing. It's just two kids who wrestled. But yet a year later, he fantasizes at school about bringing a baseball bat and breaking both of his legs and then not stopping.
And I remember...
Jag är helt tagen, kan inte säga någonting. Fantastiskt.
Hårstråna som Bagge inte ens har på huvudet reste sig.
fantasizing when I was in like 6th grade, I think, like a year later. Wouldn't it be great if I brought a baseball bat to school and just broke his legs and just kept hitting his legs to where he'd never walk right ever again because he wronged me that bad?
He imagines him never being able to walk right again because he wronged me on that day a year ago.
When the Columbine people did what they did, I thought it was egregious and terrible. I also understood how you could be pushed to do that.
He remembers the Columbine incident where people at school go up and do all those horrible things. And he's thinking, you know what? I can feel that emotion. I understand what they were going through to be capable of doing that. And so he gets them. And so he understands them. He can relate. And so he admits to having these thoughts, these urges, of which he has to suppress. Now, most people would never admit to this. They would never state this. He even says, I understand the gravity of the message that I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Enough bullying will make you consider doing terrible things to regain your honor.
Enough bullying will cause you to do nearly anything to regain your honor. And although he is in fact correct, his bullying was losing a wrestling match to a 10-year-old. 1 or 2 times in his life.
I was bullied in other situations. Again, like I might have been bullied 3 or 4 times my whole life, but it just did not sit well with me at all.
Correction, 3 or 4 times in his whole life. Imagine if he were severely bullied. Mike is above average in intelligence. He has a PhD. Imagine if he wasn't intelligent, if he had no muscle, if he had nothing. Imagine if people had bullied him not just 3 or 4 times in his life, but 3 or 4 times a day. What would he have been capable of? What could and would he have been capable of doing?
And even right now, as I talk to you, I'm getting pretty emotional. I'll say that if I see that guy again in real life, if he's even around, I have a brown belt in jiu-jitsu now. I'm almost certainly bigger and stronger than him. Is he safe around me? Probably.
And so he's saying, as I'm speaking about this, I'm getting very emotional. I know I'm bigger and stronger than him. I've been training in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And is he in fact safe around me?
Can I guarantee his safety if he brings it up? No. If he watches this and hits me up and goes, "Hi, I got you, little bitch."
Can I guarantee his safety? No. If he is watching this program right now, Darren, and he were to reach out to me,
if I see him in real life, I might take something from him medical science can't give him back within the next 5 or 10 years.
I may in fact take something from him that medical science can't give him back. It's been over 30 years.
He's talking like a real psychopath
It's
now.
been over 30 years. He's speaking to Diary of a CEO. It's over 7 million followers. Millions of people could be back watching this. He's naming this guy, Darren, who had a wrestling match when he was 10. He speaks to the fact that he fantasized about breaking both of his legs a year later in grade 6, that he would never walk the same, and he would remember that he's the one that did it to him. He can't guarantee his safety. And if he were to hit him up and say, I got you, if you ever saw him, well, medical science wouldn't be able to help. And you want to use steroids, and I'm the psychopath, as stated by Mike Israetel in that video. Are you scared?
Oh, I'm a little bit scared, yeah.
A little bit scared.
You're not faceless.
And so she's in fact scared for my safety. I'm not faceless. I'm not from Bangladesh. And I make videos about Mike all the time. And so am I safe? I'm asking you, what do you guys think?
Should I really worry?
Do you think it would be safe for me to just hang out with Mike Israetel, play some basketball, shoot some hoops, shoot the shit? Hey, Mike, how you doing? How's YouTube going? Let's talk about our butler shelves and our swimming pools and Lamborghinis.
Right.
Would you do that?
He's not safe.
Based on what he said? And so you were in the forest and you had the choice between hanging out with Coach Greg, Mike Israetel, or the bear. Who do you think you're safest to be around? Crazy thing is I actually had this post on Instagram and it was 50-50 with me and Mike Israetel. The bear one.
Maybe some of them will change their answers now.
Perhaps some of you will change your answers now. I don't fantasize about baseball bats and breaking legs and none of this stuff. And that guy from Bangladesh, he doesn't bother me.
I mean, to be honest, like if you really watch both of these guys' videos, I think they're both their channels. I've been watching both of them, but now lately I've been watching Greg Doucettes a bit more. But they both have good content, though. They both have good information. They're both good at what they're doing, what they're saying. You know, something that people can probably use for their training, for fitness, and being overall helpful. But if you're looking at what kind of person you would team up with, in terms of your own best interest, if you're in the forest, like what he's saying here, I think the most intelligent choice would definitely be Greg Doucettes. Because I mean, who else would you choose in this scenario? I mean, Mike Israetel is already telling you that people around him are not safe, so it's a pretty clear choice to me, but whatever, let's keep watching.
It's not that big. But remember, I'm on 140 milligrams a week. I've stopped steroids for 5 years. Mike has just finished a massive cycle of which he says it wasn't that big, but who knows what he was really doing. He's on 250 milligrams of test a week as far as I know, and I think that dose should be cut in half. But what do you think?
It was not like he brutalized me. Oh my God, like I'm going to cripple someone over some bullshit childhood abuse. Also, Stephen, he was 10.
He was 10. He's thought about this for over 30 years. He was 10. No matter how bad it was back then, he was 10. You're a grown man. And to think I could potentially do something to someone who did that to me 30 years ago when he was 10, what ain't it? They have those talk shows in the past, bringing back people who are bullied. I watched one the other day. Dave Palumbo was on the show, all larger than life, massive muscles. Hey, you bullied me when I was in school. Imagine if they brought Mike Israetel on a talk show and brought back that bully and he didn't ask for forgiveness. I beat you in that wrestling match. Mike could be in jail.
The gravity of how deeply it feels to me, even right now at age 40, it's like, man, that shit definitely meant something.
Probably should have addressed it in therapy a long time ago, because now he's like dragging this into his
That's a good point.
adulthood.
And so, Mike, please ensure that you continue to go to therapy. I can't remember if he's going right now or not, but if you're not, that's what they're for. You can work this out. You can talk these things out. You're very logical. You seem to have good control of your emotions right now, but you've stated the more steroids that you're on, the harder it is to control. We don't want you to meet up with Darren. We want to ensure everyone's safety. And so please think twice. And remember, Mike has said until you're age 25, your brain hasn't finished developing. You're not prepared to make the decisions that you're making. Just because you're 18 and or 19 and considered adult does not mean you're ready to use steroids. I highly encourage you, those of you who are on steroids or perhaps thinking about it, rather than that, consider Turk Builder and GO2 Max. Remember, Turk Builder has actual turkesterone from Uzbekistan. It's not the stuff from China that the majority of companies are using. If you're interested in Turk Builder or GO2 Max, we have a money back guarantee. And so what risk is it? And does it in fact work? I'm telling you that it does. I'm not lying. It's not snake oil, and it's certainly not the placebo. It's far more effective than creatine. If you think creatine and Turk Builder are on the same level, trust me, you're not, and it is so strong. I don't encourage teenagers to use this. Perhaps stick with the creatine, protein bars, protein powders. You shouldn't be using pre-workout. Save Turk Builder for when you're older, when you're perhaps reaching a plateau, interested in this, GO2 Max, cookbooks, and so on. Code Greg, 15% off. Click the link in the description. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like this video if you in fact liked it. I know the topic was very difficult to listen to. It was very somber, very scary. Please watch one of those two blue.
Yeah, that wraps it up. That was pretty funny though. I mean, especially in the beginning. But yeah, I just wanted to watch that react to it together with you guys. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I mean, for me, I think again, steroids is not it's not worth it. I've never taken steroids before, even though people ask me if I'm natural, and that's a compliment. You know, it's always a compliment. It's always nice to hear that. But for me, I think like still, if you're so smart, you know, so analytical, such a genius, intelligence, right? High IQ. Why do you need to take steroids? Don't you know how to analyze that the side effects, the downside of taking steroids is far outweighs the good, the positive, you know? Like, since you're so smart, shouldn't you be able to make that judgment call? That's just my take. It's a simple thing, simple decision, you know, and it should be so easy. For me, it's easy. Like, I'm never gonna take steroids. But these guys, man, all the smarts in the world, and then they still, you know, taking steroids, which is, for me, that's just stupid. Like, that right there is like proof that you're not that smart. For me, that's how I see it. Do some bodybuilders need to take steroids because they want to compete, whatever? Maybe. I don't know. You know, I'm not even in that world, you know, not yet. Maybe I should go to some fitness events and check out these guys, you know, but anyway, like this video, guys, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.